So how bad were Zimmerman's injuries? And bad enough to prove he was acting in self-defense when he killed Trayvon Martin? Here to analyze, host of Judge Alex Ferrer, and defense attorney Monica Lindstrom. Now, Judge, I'm struck here by what the medical examiner, Valerie Rao, said. She never saw in person, as far as I understand it, Zimmerman. She didn't examine him as a physician, did she?
No, not at all. She was working from photographs. Not that that's necessarily precluding her from giving an opinion, because medical examiners often work from photographs as well in their normal work, but they're also working with examinations of bodies. But she did opine that the injury to the nose wasn't significant, and the injury to the head did not seem significant. The cuts in the back of the head, the bruising and things like that, and they could have come from one strike, which I found a little hard to swallow, and I tend to believe that if Valerie Rao had been injured with a nose like that and those injuries to the back of her head, she probably wouldn't think they were so insignificant. But that being said, the prosecution did score some points in trying to play down the injury, the severity of the injuries. The problem is that that's not really even a factor in self-defense. It may seem like a factor, but it's not. The person doesn't actually even have to be injured.
Right.
All the person has to do is be in fear for their life or serious bodily injury, and that's what the jury's going to have to look at.
So Monica, I, of course, am not a physician, and I have no real understanding of the severity of Mr. Zimmerman's injuries or not, but it sounds to me like Valerie Rao is a bit of a flake. We just found this. This is from a Jacksonville paper. Jacksonville medical examiner Valerie Rao has been the subject of complaints from her coworkers going back to '09, says the story. This is according to WJXT-TV. According to letters sent to the city, and I'm quoting, Rao has been seen touching cadavers with her bare hands, washing her feet in the autopsy sink, and performing unnecessary autopsies on inmates to create a revenue stream. And it goes on to catalog various complaints against medical inspector Rao. How seriously should we take her analysis of these injuries that she never actually saw?
Well, she might not be the most wonderful person out there, but she does have that medical background, and she does have some experience to back up what she has to say. But, you know, I listened to her testimony, and I saw the pictures, and she lost me in several places because what she was saying didn't make sense to me, and I'm wondering if the jury sitting there listening to her think the same thing. Maybe his injuries didn't require stitches, but like Judge Alex said, that's not what is relevant here. What's relevant is, how did George Zimmerman feel? How did those injuries feel? So even though they weren't significant enough to have sutures, were they significant enough to cause the pain or maybe some disorientation for him to feel like he needed to protect himself? So the fact that she might be a flake or she might have these weird tendencies, it might come into play, but I think the jury is going to use a lot of their own common sense, listening to what she said and looking at those pictures.
Well, these allegations, just to be totally clear, and I don't know if they're true or not, but they suggest also dishonesty, performing unnecessary autopsies for money. I think that would go to character. Now, what did you make, Judge, of Christopher Serino's characterization of Trayvon Martin being armed with concrete, the idea that concrete could be a weapon?
Well, that wasn't really Serino's characterization. What happened was that lots been made of the fact that Trayvon Martin was unarmed, and clearly was unarmed.
Right.
However, the defense has pointed out that one of the allegations that George Zimmerman has said, and the injuries on his head seem to coincide with it, was that he was getting George Zimmerman's head and bashing it against concrete. So O'Mara was saying, look, even if you don't have a weapon, if you arm yourself with concrete by taking your victim's head and smashing it on the floor, that's just as good as if you had a weapon, and Serino agreed that that was the case.
He agreed. That's exactly right. I don't have a problem with that. And Monica, do you agree?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Oh, I absolutely agree, because you can take anything in your environment and turn it into some type of weapon. Now, maybe he didn't have the intent to do that, which is why he wasn't armed in the first place, but at some point, if that's what happened, he intended to cause that pain and that injury, and you could call the concrete a weapon.
Yeah, well, it sounds like in this case, it certainly was. Thank you both very much. Judge Monica, I appreciate it.